There are cases that have haunted the world, lingering quietly between conspiracy theories, fear, and the dark shadows of justice. But over time, with patience and the evolution of investigative tools, some of those mysteries have begun to unravel. Today, I'll take you through 5 enigmas that once stunned the global online community when they appeared on BuzzFeed Unsolved. Cases that seemed destined to fade into obscurity, but instead concluded with surprising revelations. Case 1, the woman in the dunes. July 26, 1974, a 12-year-old girl following her dog's barking stumbled upon a decomposing female corpse at Race Point Beach, Provincetown, Massachusetts. The scene was beyond horrific. Both hands had been severed, the teeth extracted, and part of the skull was crushed. A blue bandana and Wrangler jeans were carefully placed under her head, as if someone had tried to stage the body, which lay on its back upon a beach blanket in the white sand. For nearly half a century, this unidentified woman became known as the Lady of the Dunes. Her body was exhumed 4 times in hopes of identifying her, and finally on October 31, 2022, the FBI confirmed her identity, Ruth Marie Terry. Over the years, several suspects were speculated, including infamous mobster Whitey Bulger, who was known for removing victims' teeth, and serial killers Tony Costa and Hayden Clark. Clark had even confessed to the murder only to retract his statement after alleging police coercion. But the real killer turned out to be someone else entirely, a man who never faced justice, Guy Rockwell Malden. If not for the extreme efforts taken to erase Ruth's identity, police might have solved the case much earlier. Malden had already been a suspect in the 1,950 as for the murder of 28-year-old trucker Henry Red Bed and the abduction of Bed's 17-year-old girlfriend, Barbara Jo Kelly. Betty's body was later discovered face down on Table Bluff Beach, wearing only socks and shoes. Barbara's clothes were folded neatly beneath his body. She was never seen again. In 1960, Malden's second wife, Manzanita Ryan, and her daughter Dolores also mysteriously vanished in Seattle. Disjointed remains were later found in the home's septic tank, but couldn't be conclusively identified. Malden was arrested by the FBI for failing to testify as a witness, but was never charged due to a lack of bodies and evidence. Once Ruth was identified, investigators found she had married Guy Rockwell Malden around 1/9/7/3/1974. The couple went on their honeymoon, but only Malden returned driving Ruth's car. He reportedly told people she had died, and when her brother inquired, he claimed they had fought and lost contact. Malden later moved to Salinas, California, where he retired in 1985 as vice president of a Beverly Hills silverware company. He died of natural causes in 2002, peacefully, undeservedly. But on August 28, 2023, police officially declared him the murderer of Ruth Marie Terry. Case 2, the treasure of Forrest Fenn. Famed art dealer and author Forrest Fenn buried a treasure chest filled with gold and precious artifacts somewhere in the Rocky Mountains worth an estimated $2 million, 0 cents. He published a cryptic poem containing clues to its location, sparking a global treasure hunt that drew tens of thousands of hopeful seekers. But the search turned deadly. 5 people lost their lives trying to find the treasure. The first was Randy Bilyeu, who vanished in January 2016 and was found dead on the banks of the Rio Grande 6 months later. Cause of death was never determined. His ex-wife publicly labeled the entire hunt a hoax. Then came Jeff Murphy from Illinois, who died on June 9, 2017, after falling 500 feet in Yellowstone National Park. The third victim, Pastor Paris Wallace from Colorado, was found dead a few miles downstream on the Rio Grande. Eric Ashby, a full-time treasure hunter who had moved to Colorado, drowned in the Arkansas River. His body was recovered on July 28, 2017. Finally, Michael Wainstone was found dead on March 21, 2020, just a month after a prior rescue from the same area. The fatalities prompted New Mexico State Police Chief to publicly urge an end to the treasure hunt due to its increasing danger. Then came the announcement that someone had succeeded. On June 6, 2020, Forrest Fenn posted on his blog, "The Thrill of the Chase." It was under a canopy of stars in the lush vegetation of the Rocky Mountains. I do not know the person who found it, but the poem in my book led him to the precise. Initially, the finder's identity was kept secret, but on July 22, Fenn revealed the treasure had been found in Wyoming, and in December of that year, Jack Stoof, a medical student from Michigan and a former writer for BuzzFeed Unsolved, confirmed he had discovered it. Jack remained anonymous out of safety concerns, but when a lawsuit threatened to reveal his identity, he chose to go public. The plaintiff was reportedly a French woman named Karen, who claimed she had identified the treasure's location in Colorado, but was unable to retrieve it due to COVID-19 restrictions. She sued Fenn's estate for $10 million, 0 cents, alleging the chest was moved to why her case was dismissed. She filed again and failed again. The message was clear. It's over. Let it go. Case 3. The collar bomb heist in Erie, Pennsylvania. On August 28, 2003, pizza delivery man Brian Douglas Wells entered a PNC Bank branch like any ordinary customer. 8 minutes later, a bank employee dialed 911 to report a man wearing what looked like a bomb locked around his neck. When Wells reached the counter, he handed the teller a note demanding $250,000, 0 cents, or the device would detonate in 15 minutes. While the teller scrambled to collect money, Wells stood by, seemingly calm, even sucking on a lollipop. In the end, they handed him only $872, 0 cents. The vault couldn't be opened in time. As he left, witnesses said Wells waved the bag and brandished a cane-shaped gun like he was in a silent film. Just 15 minutes later, police surrounded and handcuffed him near his car in a parking lot. Sitting on the curb, Wells explained that 3 black men had forced the bomb onto him, armed him with the fake gun, and made threats against his life if he didn't comply. Police soon found 9 pages of handwritten instructions, an elaborate scavenger hunt. Wells was told to rob the bank, find keys to defuse the bomb, and avoid detection, all within tight time limits. The notes warned he was being watched, and any contact with authorities would result in his death. But instead of focusing on disarming the bomb, the police evacuated the area. The bomb squad wasn't called until 3:04 p.m., 10 minutes after Wells' arrest. At 3:18 p.m., just 3 minutes before they arrived, the device exploded, blowing a hole in his chest. Wells died almost instantly. Investigators concluded that even if Wells had completed all the tasks, he wouldn't have survived. The timeline was a death sentence. His behavior, munching candy and appearing oddly composed, led some to suspect he was a willing participant. Still, authorities struggled to trace his steps. That is, until a month later, when William Rothstein phoned in a tip, there's a body in a freezer at 8645 Peach Street. The address was Rothstein's own home. He was arrested within hours. Rothstein had considered suicide and left behind a note beginning with, "This has nothing to do with the Wells case." But the rest revealed the gruesome truth. The body was James Roden, the ex-boyfriend of Marjorie Dial Armstrong, a woman with whom Rothstein had once been romantically involved. Rothstein claimed Marjorie had confessed to shooting Roden with a Remington 12 gauge during an argument over money and begged him to dispose of the body for $200 to $2,000, 0 cents. Marjorie was arrested. In 2005, she contacted the FBI offering information about Wells' death in exchange for a transfer to a lower security prison. She claimed Rothstein had built the bomb and that Wells had been involved in the plot. Along with Kenneth Barnes, a fishing buddy of Marjorie's, the group had allegedly concocted a plan to kill Marjorie's father, Harold Deal, for inheritance money. They needed $250,000, 0 cents. And so they planned a bank heist. Wells was allegedly recruited, believing the bomb was fake and intended as a prop in case he was caught. But some argue he wasn't fully aware of the plan and was killed to reduce witnesses. Jessica Hoopsick, a friend of Wells, revealed in Netflix's Evil Genius that she had been paid in cash and drugs to disclose Wells' schedule. She believes he had no idea what he was walking into. Though many questions remain, the consensus is that Bride Wells was manipulated, an unwitting pawn in a cruel and greedy conspiracy. Case 4. The mysterious death of Elisa Lam. In early 2013, Elisa Lam, a young university student from British Columbia, embarked on a solo trip to California. She booked a stay at the infamous Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, just blocks from Skid Row, a place known for its transient population and troubled history. Initially placed in a shared room on the 5th floor, Elisa's behavior reportedly became increasingly erratic. She allegedly left strange notes to her roommates and locked the door with a code. Hotel staff eventually moved her to a private room for safety. She attempted to attend a live taping of the Conan O'Brien show in Burbank, but was escorted out due to her uncontrollable behavior. Throughout her journey, Elisa remained in close contact with her family, calling them daily, but on January 31st, the day she was set to check out and travel to Santa Cruz, all communications ceased. Alarmed, her family reported her missing. Police searched the entire hotel, including the rooftop, using dogs and infrared technology. Although a strange odor was noted in certain areas, no trace of Elisa was found. Then, on February 13th, LAPD released elevator surveillance footage capturing Elisa's final known moments. In the grainy 2.5-minute clip, she presses multiple elevator buttons. Erratically, peeks cautiously down the hallway, then steps in and out of the elevator while the doors remain open. Her bizarre movements and apparent paranoia sparked an online firestorm. Theories ranged from ghost possession and a so-called elevator game to supernatural curses tied to the hotel's dark past. But the truth, while tragic, was far more grounded. On the morning of February 19th, following complaints from guests about low water pressure, foul taste, and black discoloration in tap water, a hotel maintenance worker climbed to the rooftop and made a horrific discovery. Inside one of the 1,000-gallon water tanks, he found Elisa's decomposing body. The autopsy report ruled her death an accidental drowning. Elisa suffered from bipolar disorder and had not been taking her prescribed medication correctly. In the past, she had disappeared during manic episodes and required hospitalization. While many question how she reached the tank, investigators determined that she had likely accessed the roof via the fire escape, a route consistent with police dog tracking. As for the tank's heavy lid, the worker who found the body confirmed it was open when he arrived, debunking claims that she couldn't have gotten in by herself. It was a deeply sorrowful end, a young woman in mental crisis, lost in one of the world's busiest cities, misunderstood, isolated, and remembered through the lens of viral mystery. Case 5, the murder of Tupac Shakur. On the night of September 7, 1996, legendary rapper Tupac Shakur was shot 4 times while riding in a BMW with Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight in Las Vegas. He succumbed to his injuries 6 days later. The primary suspect was Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, a member of the Southside Crips, who had been attacked by Tupac and Suge earlier that night in the lobby of the MGM Grand. Despite widespread speculation, Anderson was never formally charged and was himself killed 2 years later in an unrelated shootout. 6 months after Tupac's death, fellow rap icon Biggie Smalls' Christopher Wallace was murdered in Los Angeles in similar fashion. His mother filed a $400 million 0 cents lawsuit against the LAPD, alleging corruption and internal involvement in the killing. The case stalled for years, prompting the department to reopen the investigation with help from Detective Greg Kading, who had experience with complex cold cases. The investigation eventually turned to Dwayne Keffy D. Davis, a former drug kingpin with connections to the Crips and Colombian cartels. Davis had long hinted at inside knowledge but refused to name the shooter. Kading devised a strategy, charge Davis for his drug trafficking operation and pressure him into cooperation. Facing serious jail time and fearing consequences for his family, Davis agreed to talk. Under a pro-for agreement that granted limited immunity for his statements, Davis made explosive claims. He alleged that in 1995, Sean Diddy Combs offered $1 million, 0 cents, for the murders of Tupac and Suge Knight. However, Davis insisted that Tupac's killing wasn't a contracted hit, but personal revenge. After the altercation at the MGM Grand, Davis and 3 others, including Orlando Anderson, tracked Tupac down. Riding in a white Cadillac, they followed Tupac's black BMW at the intersection of Flamingo and Koval. Davis claimed that Anderson, sitting in the back seat, fired the fatal shots. Tupac was hit 4 times. Suge Knight sustained minor injuries. Davis said he later received a call from Diddy asking, "Was it us?" A question he never answered. Though Diddy denied any involvement, Davis stood by his account and claimed he never received the promised money. On September 29, 2023, more than 27 years after the shooting, Dwayne Keflon D. Davis was arrested and charged with murder with intent. After decades of conspiracy theories and unanswered questions, authorities had finally closed one of hip-hop's most haunting cold cases. As for Biggie's murder, it remains unsolved. Detective Kading theorized that Suge Knight's child's mother, Tammy Hawkins, may have facilitated the killing. The alleged shooter was Wardell Poochie Foose, a notorious Bloods gang member with a violent history. Foose was killed in 2003, and with few remaining leads, the case stalled indefinitely. Still, after years of myth and mystery, Justice has been served in at least one of the most infamous cases featured on BuzzFeed Unsolved.